All right, everybody, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Let's do it.
Okay, so today we're diving into a topic that I'm sure a lot of you are really curious about, and that's the latest in the world of PlayStation hacking.
Yeah, always a hot topic.
It is. Specifically, we're going to be talking about the PS5
Okay.
and attempts to crack its code. To help break it all down, we're looking at this recent update from YouTuber's Name, translated. They're a Spanish YouTuber who follows all this stuff very closely.
Yeah, they're great. Really in the weeds with this scene.
Yeah, and really cuts through a lot of the, hype and rumors and just tells you, like, this is the deal.
Exactly. No BS.
And I like that. So we're going to be talking about their recent video. Just to give everybody some context, the PS5, as I'm sure you all know, has been notoriously difficult to crack, especially when you compare it to its predecessor.
Oh, yeah. It's a whole different beast this time around. Completely different architecture, much more locked down than the PS4 ever was. I mean, remember back in the day with the PS4, everything was in, like, those PKG files?
Yeah, vaguely.
You can pretty much toss that out the window now. The PS5 is a whole different system. And to be honest, I think a lot of hackers were still trying to just figure out what the keys to the castle even look like,
Frankly.
Like, we've got some limited exploits for the older firmware versions, like up to 5.xx, but those mainly just let you downgrade or maybe run some PS4 games.
So no, like, magic button to, like, instantly play pirated PS5 games, huh?
Not even close. That's like trying to pick a lock on a vault door when you haven't even found the vault yet.
Right.
Still got to find the vault.
So, okay, with all that said, this YouTuber that we're talking about, they dropped what could be a pretty major bombshell.
Okay.
And that's that this well-known hacker, who goes by Flats, claims to have potentially found a way to exploit the PS5's hypervisor.
Oh.
And now I know some people listening might be like, hyper what now?
Yeah, it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. The hypervisor is like the game master of your PS5, right? It's the thing that sits above everything else, the operating system, the games, everything. And it has control over the console's actual hardware.
So messing with the hypervisor, that's like grabbing the controls from the game master themselves.
Exactly. You got it. And that's why this is such a big deal. If you compromise the hypervisor, it's like you found the master key to the entire system.
Wow.
And what's even more interesting, this potential exploit, if it's legit, is that it uses a completely different method than the one Sony patched back in firmware version 5.0.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it involves messing with something called AP in the TERS segment of kernel data to basically sneak in code before the hypervisor fully boots up after rest mode.
Okay, so that's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I don't want to bore you with all the technical stuff, but just know this suggests there's a brand new vulnerability here.
So even after Sony, like, patched things up, it's like the hackers found a new way to outsmart the game master.
You got it. It's this constant back and forth with each side trying to, stay one step ahead, like a game of chess,
Totally.
And right now it seems like the hackers might have, made a pretty big move.
Right, but even with this, like, potential hypervisor exploit, both the YouTuber and you have both said people need to kind of, like, temper their expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to be able to just start pirating PS5 games like tomorrow, right?
It's not quite that simple. Even if you manage to outsmart the game master,
Right.
you still have this whole other security network to get through.
Right.
It's like, okay, so you got into the vault.
Yeah.
But then you realize each safety deposit box has, like, a different lock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's still, like, really hard to run unsigned code on there.
Yeah, it's still this multi-layered challenge, right? Like, this hypervisor exploit is huge, don't get me wrong. Yeah. It's a big first step.
Right.
But the journey is definitely not over yet.
Right. And speaking of, like, managing expectations and stuff,
Yeah.
The YouTuber also got kind of frustrated with some of the, shall we say, misinformation that's floating around out there.
Yeah.
Like, he specifically called out these other videos that are claiming there's, like, already lists of, playable pirated games for, like, firmware up to 7.61.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which is just crazy.
Yeah, you really got to watch out for those clickbaity headlines,
Yeah.
Stick to your trusted sources.
Yeah.
Because you never know what kind of digital rabbit hole those videos will lead you down.
Yeah, it just goes to show you can't believe everything you see online.
Nope.
But lucky for you guys, you're listening to The Deep Dive.
That's right.
Where we give you the straight truth, hype-free.
Exactly. Cutting through all that noise.
Exactly.
Now, getting back on track here, I mean, this whole hypervisor exploit is definitely big news.
Yeah?
But the YouTuber also touched on a couple other interesting avenues that hackers are going down right now.
Right, like those Lua and kernel exploits that he mentioned.
Exactly.
I'm not going to lie, those sound kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Even like, as someone who kind of keeps up with this stuff.
Right, and those are just different, well, they sound complicated, but basically,
Yeah.
think of it this way, right?
Okay.
If the hypervisor is like the game master,
Right.
then these other exploits are like trying to find like loopholes in the game master's like rule book.
Okay, so instead of just like taking over the whole system,
Right.
they're just trying to like bend the rules a little bit.
Exactly. You got it. Just different tactics for, essentially the same goal.
Right, right.
And it really goes to show like how relentless these hackers are,
Yeah.
They're always poking around, always looking for a way in.
Yeah.
Like they're like digital detectives in a way.
Right. It makes you wonder, like, what is it that makes them want to go to these lengths?
Yeah.
Like, is it all about like pirating games, or is there something else going on?
That's actually a common misconception, Like, yeah, some people are in it for the free game, sure.
Right.
But you'd be surprised how many are actually driven by like a love for the tech itself.
Oh, interesting.
Like a thirst for knowledge.
Yeah.
They just want to understand how it all works.
Oh, so it's less about stealing games and more about just like seeing what makes the sister tick.
Yeah. And seeing if they can make it do things that even the people who made it
Right.
never even imagined. For some of them, it's all about the challenge,
Right.
the thrill of the hunt,
That is fascinating. So it's not just about like piracy and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like this whole other thing. It's about like pushing boundaries and like exploring what this technology can actually do.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And let's not forget the whole homebrew scene too.
Yeah.
People creating their own games, their own applications, even operating systems.
Whoa. Okay. Now that's cool.
Right. Like giving your PS5 a whole new life.
Okay. Now that I am on board with,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Imagine like playing classic games from older consoles,
Right.
running custom themes, or even like using your PS5 as a media center, right? With all these features Sony never even thought to include.
That's what I'm talking about. Unlocking the true potential of your console.
Exactly.
But okay, with all this talk about hacking and all this stuff, I mean, we also have to remember that there are like legal and ethical considerations here, right?
Absolutely.
Like this is not...
This is a can of worms.
It is. It's a very complex issue
Huge can of worms.
with no easy answers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely something to keep in mind as we, kind of go down this rabbit hole. But before we get too far off track here, let's kind of like wrap up, summarize what we learned from this YouTuber's update here. So we've covered a lot of ground here today talking about this stuff.
We have.
We've talked about the PS5's really impressive security, this potential new hypervisor exploit that's, got everybody talking.
Right.
And we even got into like why people even hack in the first place, like what motivates them.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff, right? It's like this constant battle
It is.
between the people building the walls and the people trying to tear them down.
It really is. And at the heart of it all is this question of like, will we ever see?
Yeah.
Will we ever see like a fully jailbroken PS5?
Right.
Like one where you can basically do whatever you want with it.
You're asking the million-dollar question there.
Right.
Sadly, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this hypervisor thing,
Right.
this is big.
Yeah.
Like, even if it doesn't pan out, it shows us that even the most secure systems,
Right.
they can still have weaknesses.
It's like they say, every lock has a key.
Exactly.
You just got to find it.
You just got to find the right one.
Right.
And there are a lot of really smart people out there looking for those keys. So it really does feel like only a matter of time.
So, okay, if you're somebody who's been like following this whole PS5 hacking saga,
Yeah.
what would you say is like the big takeaway from all of this?
I would say stay tuned.
Yeah.
Because this is just the beginning, right?
Right.
The PS5's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the walls are starting to show some cracks.
Yeah.
And this whole hypervisor thing,
Yeah.
even though it's still early days,
Right.
I think it just shows that things can change really fast in this world.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to leave it for today.
Yeah.
The PS5 hacking saga continues, so buckle up because it's going to be a wild ride. And, we'll be here to break it all down for you right here on The Deep Dive, as always. Until then, happy gaming, everyone.